boys are going to bring the heat today.
As the leader of the Booner Pack, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juice pumping, boys.
Welcome to Crunch Time Sports with Jeff Booner, Lucas. It is Wednesday, February 12th. We got a show today. We got some news regarding Ohio State. Breaking as of today. We got the doc joining. We'll talk Marcus Davenport, a free agent that the Lions could potentially be interested in. NFL analysts said the Lions should sign somebody. We'll get to that name at some point during the show as well. Amon-Ra St. Brown had comments on the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll play that clip with Klotzy. How are you doing, my friend? It seems like Ohio State fans are rejoicing today, it seems like.
I get the pleasure of talking about Matt Patricia joining the Ohio State Buckeyes staff and Marcus Davenport today. I am thrilled, Hefe. Great to be here. Terrible to be an Ohio State Buckeyes fan, okay? Because I did go on my rant last night, and I share the same emotions entering today. Like, it was like when I saw that he left Columbus and it was a success and you saw that smile on Matt Patricia's face, I knew it was a done deal because at this point, who else are you going to get that fits an Ohio State defensive coordinator? And the resume, when you look at it, wow, 3 Super Bowl titles. Defensive coordinator under Bill Belichick. Okay, what have you actually done? Defensive coordinator for Bill Belichick. Did a good job in New England. I won't say that he was a bad DC, but that's pretty much the equivalent of saying, wow, Sean McVay's offensive coordinator really did something in that run. No, it didn't. Bill Belichick was running that show, general manager, defense, everything that was going on was Tom Brady, Bill Belichick. That was the show there. Josh McDaniels, I think, and we've seen what he could be as a head coach as far as the NFL, deserve more credit, in my opinion, than Matt Patricia does. And then you leave, and you really get to see what you can do on your own when he gets the head coaching job in Detroit. And it was, for the Detroit Lions to say this is even crazier, the worst head coach in Detroit Lions history, and that is saying a lot. Hey, there have been a slew of bad head coaches in Detroit. You could say there's really been arguably one good to great one, depending on what your feelings are about Jim Caldwell, because Jim Caldwell, Super Bowl winner, I'd say he's a good coach, but Dan Campbell is the best coach, and it came after him. Like, you can see the drastic difference. Then goes to Philly, defensive assistant. Their defense sucked, was the worst their defense has ever been over the last 10 years. Then goes to the offensive side. Offense sucks. Goes back to New England, offensive guy, leaves New England, and now you're taking over what was the best defense in college football last year, if you don't want to say Texas, and you're losing pretty much your entire defense out of Sonny Styles and a couple guys on the front 7. You got Caleb Downs. That's nice. But you got Ryan Day as the head coach. That's the head coach of this team. And when you look at it, these defensive coordinators and offensive coordinators for Ohio State have to be that guy at that coordinating position. Chip Kelly was a head winning college football coach, won a national championship at Oregon, has done it. Went to Ohio State, won an ad, and he was like, yeah, no chance I return here. 0. Jim Knowles. Why would you leave Ohio State to go to Penn State? Outside of money, but Ohio State would have paid him. Because of what's going on there, truly, and Ryan Day. I think when you look at this, Brian Hartline, some people are saying that he's going to be the head coach to be. Why would you just extend Ryan Day in a contract? That literally makes no sense. Brian Hartline, after 2 or 3, maybe even 1 or 2 years, will be gone. He'll be a head coach somewhere. And then you're going to be stuck with Ryan Day and Matt Patricia in the toughest conference in college football. It was the SEC. Now it is the Big Ten. You're going to ask Matt Patricia, who struggled to play call in the NFL, to now go up in what is a tougher play calling scheme when you look at college football, because it's the mobile quarterbacks. Like, play calling in college is just different. He has not coached in college before. So now you're going to ask him, hey, it's the game, the rivalry game, Ohio State versus Michigan. Stop Bryce Underwood. The guy who was the number 100 perfectly rated quarterback coming into this class. Honestly, in my lifetime, the only true big quarterback recruit that I can pop off the top of my head outside of JJ, but I'm saying that they're going to use, especially with Sharon Moore there. Like Bryce Underwood is being hyped up to be like the best quarterback in Michigan history in the last couple of years, or not last couple of years, probably the last couple of decades as far as what he can do there. And Matt Patricia is the guy that you have trying to stop him. It's not going to work. It will not work. Dan Lanning, I would say Sharon Moore, and I'm trying to think. I'll give James Franklin a bone in this fight. We'll have more success in the next 3 to 4 years than Ryan Day will at Ohio State, without a doubt.
No.
And I'm Ohio State. Like, there's just a point where you can see when Ohio State was Ohio State, they were making the right moves. This move just feels desperate. You want somebody that looks the part on the resume. Do we not remember what happened with Matt Patricia and Darius Slay and Quandre Diggs during his time in Detroit?
Can I play devil's advocate?
Okay.
What if I say to you, maybe his style in the pros doesn't necessarily work because you're not, number one, he's not Bill Belichick, but number two, they're grown men making millions of dollars. What if it'll work on college kids?
What if I told you that today's college kids are more big-headed than NFL athletes 5 or 6 years ago because they're getting paid more than those athletes are?
That's fair.
And when you get Matt Patricia, who already showed you that he struggles, because I'm not saying, every corner is a DB or a diva, but DBs, usually if you're going to find divas on the defense, it's going to be in the DB room. Not saying linebackers and defensive end can't, but you saw him have trouble with the DBs. These kids, like I'm sorry, like you're going to Ohio State. You were the man in high school. You were a 5-star recruit. You were that guy. Now you're going to be starting for Ohio State. You are that guy. If you're going to tell me realistically that you think an arrogant, maybe not arrogant, a cocky, confident 19 to 21-year-old is going to look at Matt Patricia and respect them, I beg to differ. Especially after he's going to ride out there on his ATV. Tell Caleb Downs how to play safety. Okay.
Hey, it worked for good old Wink Martindale. But here's the difference. Wink Martindale, they both started their careers in college. But Wink was he was a defensive coordinator in college. I think Matt Patricia, looking at his college career, he was a graduate assistant, defensive line coach, offensive graduate assistant, then he went right to the Patriots. So he's never been a defensive coordinator in college. So this is going to be a little different. Maybe he can be good old Wink, or maybe it's a complete failure. John Lord says, here's the real question. Will Ohio State even make it to the playoffs?
Yeah, no, they definitely will. I mean, it's Ohio State. They're going to be talented, but Ohio State, they're not going to go on some dynasty run that we've seen Bama and Georgia go on recently. Like Ohio State, like I said, they were going to regress naturally. They lost so much on the defensive side of the football. They lost their quarterback. They lost both their running backs, some key parts of that offensive line, Emeka Egbuka. And I will give Ryan Day credit for this. Ryan Day is a very good recruiter. I will never take that away from Ryan Day. He keeps good recruiting classes coming to Ohio State. That is his strength. Coaching, not so much. But as far as recruiting, that's what he can do. The talent will be there, but just the whole dynamic of this team, Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles, those were guys that you knew for a fact knew what the fuck they were talking about. Matt Patricia, you're going to question it at first. If I were to be a 20-year-old that just signed at Ohio State, give me $2 million. I love the program, but I'm not going to go in there blind faithing Matt Patricia, because I know in the back of my head, at the end of the day, this is what, if we're thinking it, I can promise you it's crossing the player's mind. Okay, did you really do that? Or did the greatest coach arguably in NFL history and Bill Belichick do that? Defensive head coach. Or were you a guy that was just on the sideline, kind of making adjustments, telling Bill what you saw, and he took that for a grain of salt? But no, I'm not sold by this. I would have much rather seen a guy like another Jim Knowles hire. It's Ohio State. It's Ohio State.
You can get it pretty much any DC. We're not talking
about Michigan State. We're not talking about Indiana. It's a top 3 brand in college football. Whoever you're asking, they're going to rank differently, but Ohio State's in those top 3. They can get anybody they wanted, and now they're losing everybody as far as coaching goes. You don't see Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles walk away. I have never in my life seen a defensive coordinator go from Ohio State to Penn State. Never once. Never once.
Yeah, Jim Knowles threw up the deuces. Said, I'm out of here.
He's out. He got the ring. That's all. He was hoping it came that year. And Ryan Day won the Natty this year. And I would say he was a point guard head coach, but he got the job done. He earned his right. to stay in Columbus. But my God, it's
Hey, look at this. Nick says Matt Patricia just has to be decent. Stop bitching, please.
why does he just have to be decent? No.
Hey,
No.
there's Matt Patricia's burner. Or he's just, okay. Well, it's gonna be. I love this. I mean, from yesterday, you breaking down him potentially being a DC, and then we put it up as a reel today, and apparently there were some Ohio State people giving you some heat.
Well, when you're just okay, so you know how we have like Brad Holmes bots? There are people people out there, Ryan Day bots, to the maximum, maximum, and it's insane. I don't know how you can look at outside of this year. Obviously, won the Natty, but again, loaded coaching staff, loaded roster. Hopefully, they can keep it going. I don't think they can. He's just like you look at Urban Meyer, Jim Tressel. And then you look at Ryan Day, and there's just a visible difference on what is going on in that program. And I know those are hard shoes to fill, but when it's just repeatedly, like you see the crucial things with the program just missing, the identity in the run game, beating fucking Michigan. Oh my God. I can't believe, like, you can't just sit up there proudly and say you're Ohio State head coach, a national championship winner. What did you do against Michigan? Never won. Never beat them. Not once. The lowest they've been in program in the last 5 years. Didn't beat them still. Still lost.
I can't believe it.
I just don't have respect for the program. I don't. The players, absolutely. Brian Hartline, absolutely.
Yep.
The program as a whole, no. Nope.
Klotz, you're a warrior. Hey, I'll give you this. You've been consistent. I will say that. Another person that's been consistent, Amon-Ra St. Brown, he had his pod released today. Both of his brothers on the pod as well. And they talked about the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. And this is what Amon-Ra St. Brown had to say about the Philadelphia Eagles and potentially facing them next year, because obviously they won the Super Bowl, so they'll be at home. And there's a list of teams that could face them. Let's hear what Amon-Ra had to say.
Out of all those teams, if you're the NFL, who you putting in there?
Lions or Commanders.
That's what I'm saying.
Easy.
So we might be playing week
No-brainer.
1.
Did you play
At
week 1?
Lincoln Financial
Who played
Field.
It was 2 years ago. You played week 1. Right?
Yeah.
2 years ago.
Spoiled that game for them.
Yeah. They probably take the Lions, honestly. I feel like they have to. If they don't, or Commanders. But really Lions. And you can really see what would happen in the NFC Championship. Not really, but
with a healthy defense.
Yeah.
Their team's not going to change much. It might change a little, but
your team wasn't healthy. That's the thing. That's part of the game. You need.
What I'm saying, you would see what our healthy defense, how that shit operates.
How many injuries did you guys really have? Let's be honest.
13 on defense.
Yeah.
Starters?
They had a
Yes.
lot. Oh, you didn't really? Yes. That's the whole defense.
Yes, the whole out of all those teams.
Amon-Ra St. Brown. You know what I will say about this? Number one, I hope the opener is Lions Eagles. That would be, yes, for content purposes, but as a fan, that is the level. That's the game you want to see to open up. That's the game I think everyone, not just Lions fans, not just Eagles fans, but I'm talking about the entire National Football League. You get to see, in Lincoln Financial, rings, wow. And the Lions have to sit there, see it all, and then you have to go face a team. And you get to measure yourself healthy now at another offseason against a team that just won the Super Bowl. To me, this is ideal. And if I'm just responding to, I guess, hearing Amon-Ra say something like this, I love it. I love when your best players are petty. Is there some of the Lions' best players are a little petty, but I love when they say things like this. It's that, listen, these are world-class athletes. They're competitive. Every one of these guys have an ego. It just comes with it. If you're that good at a sport, you have an ego. But to hear a guy like Amon-Ra, one of your best football players, be like, yeah, let's see this team against the Eagles with a healthy defense. Now, could be clipped, but I'm not worried about that. Yeah. I want to see it, Klotzy. If we're talking about matchups, give me Lions Eagles in Philly. Now, if any Lions fans out there that travel, I probably wouldn't travel to Philly to go to that game, if I'm being completely honest with you. All due respect to the city of Philadelphia, probably not an ideal away game to go to for safety reasons. But depending on I've seen it all year in Lincoln Financial. Yeah, what they're doing to opposing fans, not very, very dangerous. But as a game, Sign me up. I
More than a
want
game.
that game. Not Tom Brady though. I don't want him being the color commentator, but I want the game.
I will say, before I die, I do want to go to a Lions game in Philadelphia just to experience it. I just like to see if the hype's real, if it's real. Like, I want to encounter the firsthand, because I think it'd be fun. Like, Philly fans would be easy to troll. Like, it wouldn't take much to piss them off. You could, like, people are acting like you're gonna go fucking die there. Like, no, you're like, as long as you don't just bitch up, they're not gonna keep poking you. Either way, I would love to go to that, but I want to see the matchup. I do. But I'm not going to lie, it would scare the shit out of me. It would absolutely scare the shit out of me, because you just think about Philadelphia, and I'm not guaranteeing they're going to a Super Bowl next year, but they're going to be a very good team. They got momentum going into week 1. They're going to get better. Johnny Mo show is where I get a little nervous, where I raise an eyebrow.
No.
Kelvin Shepherd, where I get a little nervous, and I'm confident that Kelvin Shepherd, as he goes on, will be better. But you look at just the coordinator matchup. I understand that Kellen Moore is leaving. Fangio ain't going anywhere. Why? He's not going to become a head coach. Like, he was still going to coach in the NFL. He's going to keep coaching the defense in Philadelphia. And that's going to be a defense that just keeps getting better on the perimeter. Defensive line, everywhere. They're just going to keep getting better. And when you look at Jalen Hurts compared to Jared Goff, because if you want to use the Kellen Moore, Ben Johnson, Jalen Hurts has never once in his career, college or pro, had back-to-back years with an offensive coordinator. So that's not something that is going to be new to him. Not to mention, they're going to rely on Saquon. I don't think that I'm guaranteeing a Philadelphia Eagles win.
No.
But I'd be lying to you if I'm saying I'm not the most confident week 1, regardless of who, strictly because of what we saw out of Philadelphia in the playoffs. Regular season, they went 17-1 over the last 18 weeks. They started out 2-2. And that's not what scares me specifically in the regular season. But what I saw in the playoffs and what I see in this team, and that they're very young, like the Detroit Lions, and they're keeping Vic Fangio. Nick Sirianni truly proved himself. This offensive line's not going anywhere. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, they're not going anywhere. The Detroit Lions have a lot to prove week 1. They got a lot of changes that went on. Both AG and Ben Johnson going. You're going to lose some defensive pieces. Hopefully you improve there. But still, there's going to be a lot of fresh faces in important parts. This top 5 offense that we saw from the Detroit Lions is going to be tested week 1. If they get smacked in the face, not that they can't recover, but I think Detroit Lions fans will be like, ooh, okay, Ben Johnson, AG, they aren't here anymore. So I think it would be an eye-opener week 1 for sure. Again, not saying Eagles will win, not saying Lions will win. It'll be an eye-opener. I can promise you that.
Well, you don't trust Bruce Gradkowski or the new offensive
Big
assistant?
Big Bruce.
Toledo legend. Hey,
No.
I don't think he's going to be on the sideline.
No.
He should be. JT Barrett's in Chicago, isn't he?
Yeah. Yep. No, and all jokes aside, I understand you looking at the game and being like, man, fresh coaching staff, big game. Like, do I want it? I want it early. You know why? Because sometimes it's better to get punched early in the fight. All right. Sometimes it's okay to get a little rocked early. You're like, whoa, you get to know someone. Yeah, this guy's got power. I got to be careful here. Rather than late in the fight when you're already fatigued. Yeah, I want to get these guys week 1. See what kind of team the Lions are. And after that, let's say hypothetically, because I don't think it'll be a close game. I think it's going to be a great game. But let's say hypothetically they lose. You're going to learn a lot about this team after that. It's like, okay, we just got smacked in the mouth. What do we need to fix? Like, you want to measure yourself up against that team. That is the team. I'd rather play Philly week 1 than, the Vikings. And it's like, okay, you beat
give me the Vikings week 1. Vikings are you get to you get
You're
to beat
not
up
learning
on
anything. You're just beating up on the Vikings.
I'm telling you, I would much rather
you'll
learn
learn
from beating the Vikings, a division rival, who you're now getting Johnny Morton, Kelvin Shepherd. That's going to be a more favorable matchup. And then when you get momentum going in, you pick up 3 wins, 2 wins, whatever it is. I'd much rather play the Eagles in that type of situation when you figure out what the identity of this team is, because at the end of the year, you're probably going to be one of the top seeds at the NFC. I would hate to see a loss from week 1 to Philly haunt you week 17, week 18 for seeding. That's just how I want to play good. I don't want to play a cream puff week 1. Because especially week 1, you normally see division rivals if you're not playing a big game like the Lions did against the Chiefs. You see the Bears and the Packers play pretty much every year week 1, and that's eventually going to switch. Yeah, Lions, Rams. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, the premier games, you're usually playing a divisional game if you're not primetime. I would love just the Lions to be able to have one of those games. I understand this is a contender, but they're always, I think, Lions fans are like, put them in contender light, put them in contender light, put them in contender light. This season, they're not going to be right away the contenders that they were last year. I think they do need to get the ball rolling, because if you fall behind quick, I don't think it's going to happen. But you see teams in the NFL go have a great year, and then they kind of have like a good year. I think.
No, go on. Sorry, go on.
No, I say I would rather be able to start out 1-0, confident division win against a team like the Vikings are still going to be a good team next year.
Yeah,
like they're still going to be a 10-11 team. Like they're going to be a wild card team. Like that's going to be a good, obviously divisional win, but also in the conference. I think it does hurt if you drop a game to Philadelphia week 1, because we've seen early on in regular season, like those losses come to haunt you a little bit. The Lions don't need that next year.
Klotzy, let me give you the other side of it. Think of it from a game planning standpoint. If you face the Eagles week 1, you're going to be a completely different team when you face them in the playoffs. Is that fair?
But it goes the other way as well.
Like if you face them like week 14, it's like they got tape on you from a shorter period of time.
But you got tape on them from a shorter period of time too. Like it goes like you could have like Vic Fangio.
I get that, but I'm looking at it from I got a rookie DC. I got John Morton, which I don't know, like, would you call him a rookie? Like he's been in the league for I don't want to call him.
He's been hanging around.
He's better to see one other time, but he is a newer offensive court, I guess. I don't even know how to whatever. John Morton. I'd rather throw those guys in the fire. You know what I mean? You ever see the videos, which are, it's messed up by the way, but those parents that throw the babies in the pool and just have them swim,
wait them float to not.
It's
drown.
It's a sick way to teach a kid how to swim. They just throw the kid in the water and he's just drowning, and it's like, oh no, he'll learn to swim. That's what I want to do to the Lions. Toss them in the water like an infant and see if they'll swim. Like you want to. This, you know what you are, Klotzy? You're a floaty guy. Put him in the water with the floaty
guy. You know what? When I got Johnny Mo show and I got Kelvin Shepard, those can be my 2 floaties. Yes, those are the reason why. I'll be honest. Like I'm not going to be one of those people through the offseason. Myles Garrett's the one contention where I'm going to be like Lions Super Bowl next year. Like Lions will win the Super. I need to see. I'm not denying that they won't be that. I think they'll win the NFC North. Don't get me wrong. Like I think they'll do that. When it comes to winning the Super Bowl, we got to see this thing fucking play out. But you're talking about getting thrown to the fire, Jeff. Listen to the teams that they have to play. I'll go outside of the NFC North. On the road, Kansas City, Cincinnati, Philadelphia, Washington, LA. At home, you got Tampa again. Say what you want about Pittsburgh, but obviously it's going to be a well-coached team. You don't want to go sleeping into them at home. But then you add in also the NFC North. This division's a fucking gauntlet. Like they're getting thrown into the fire, whether it's week 1 or through week 4. They're getting thrown in the fire one of those first 4 weeks, probably on the road against a Super Bowl contender. That's why I'm saying, like, week 1, get that. What the fuck is our identity? Johnny, and not with the players, but Johnny Morton with his play calling. What the fuck is the identity of this team? I don't want to see him trying to run the ball with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery against Jalen Carter week 1. I'm sorry. I don't want to see that. I would love to see this Lions offense pick up the confidence. You had a brutal loss in the divisional round, and people are going to be like, well, fight back. Week 1 in Philadelphia, you get your swagger back. What if you don't? And I understand that could be the scared thing to say.
Yeah.
Fine. I don't care. I think the educated thing, in my opinion, it's not an objective statement. The educated, like, let's be smart about this. Let's not be just fucking emotional here. Let's see what this team's all about. Let's find our identity.
You know what you are? You know what I'm getting from this? You know what you sound like? You sound like an Ohio State fan. Let's beat up on a bunch of cupcakes, and then we'll get to Michigan mid-year.
Beat up on a bunch of cupcakes. I just read off the schedule for you. There's hardly the Cleveland. I'll read you off the.
I want Philly
this year. You got the Giants at home. That's a cupcake. Cleveland at home.
You want the
cupcake.
Giants, probably.
Oh, I didn't mention you have Baltimore on the road next year as well. Cleveland and the Giants. I don't want to play that. Give me the Ravens week 1. Give me the Ravens. Don't give me the defending Super Bowl champions. Please do not.
No,
because it's an AFC team that's not going to hurt you in the conference standings. You're playing a legitimate team. I don't think the Ravens will be as good this year or next year as they were this year. So I think you have an opportunity. Maybe get them. I would be very more confident playing the Ravens than the Eagles week 1 next year. I'll switch it. What if I give you the Ravens instead of the Vikings? Does that make you happy?
No, but here's the thing. You saw this year. Hold on, Klotzy. You saw this year, and I'm disappointed in you because you should know better. You saw this year the importance of what? Health. Week 1, if you got Davenport, that's the most healthy he'll be. But I'm kidding. But you get the point. That's going to be the most healthiest you will be. I know for both teams. But for the Lions, maybe it is a little bit of, I've seen it this year. I'm a little stressed about it. That's like Hutch. But also I get the same time, like Aleem might not be back right away. Like I get it. All right. I think there's an argument for both sides. I want to go to the chat on this. Do you want to see Philly week 1? Yes or no? Right now, type yes or no. You want to see Philly week 1? I want to see how many dogs we got in this chat. That's what I want to see. I want to see, you want Philly week 1? Because I want Philly week 1. I'm not going to say,
have Philly week 1.
I want Philly week 1. Look at everyone. We got yes. And then there's Philly. Just said full of bad takes lately.
I'm like, don't get me wrong. Like, if we play Philadelphia week 1, I'm not gonna be like, no. But if you're asking me, you could play any team on the schedule you want week 1. Give me the former Super Bowl contenders. If you're talking about for long-term season stake, that is not. That is not the answer that I want.
The chat wants war, and I'm going to battle with them.
You know how annoyed I get with the Kelly Stafford, Matthew. Give me another Rams saga over this week 1.
Then see that over again. Don't you like storylines? Come on.
I feel like this is I feel like we treat like the Detroit Lions like they're a fucking movie script. Okay, Jeff, what were you talking about the other day? They're a $500 million organization. Let's stop treating them like a fucking movie script. They went into Kansas City. They beat Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid after they won the Super Bowl. So it's just automatically that they're going to do it again. No, it's not. They did it once. That's fucking great. If they can do it this year, cool. But let's just stop acting like it's automatically going to happen. Give me a break.
All right.
Give me a break.
Love that. Hey,
we're in la land right now. Not saying that they can't win, but everybody's just acting like you're going to win that game. That's what you need. No, I think starting out 1-1, 2-1, 3-1, then playing Philly, got a little bit more play calling experience under your belt. Go and then.
Hey, it's all right. Maybe there are people out there. Maybe there are people out there that are on Klotzy's side. People out there that are on my side and want to go to battle week 1. Let's go to battle, man. Suit up. All right. Shout out Dr. Detroit. See, Jeff, you are full of great takes.
Lately. You know what you are? You're like the general or like the we'll use general for it, but like you can be like the Leonidas, where you and your guys are going in there to get killed.
No, we don't do that.
This is what we wanted. This is exactly why we were put here in this moment.
No, 300. 300
been picked off.
That's what it is.
You're trying to lead 300 in a Philly right now.
There's 300 Lions fans and millions of Philly fans.
And you're sending them into Lincoln Financial. You're going to have them chanting.
No.
Jared Goff. Jared Goff.
No.
Before the game. Get a cheesesteak to the face. Saquon Barkley.
Cheesesteak.
Let's find out what he's all about now.
No, I don't want. Look at Vincent. This is smart.
Like you're telling me you want Saquon Barkley going against you week 1.
I'm not. Hey.
No.
Yeah. Oh, we could do this. I want Philly to see Penei Sewell. That's what I want them to see.
Dude, they literally have two of the best offensive tackles in the NFL.
Oh my gosh. It'll be a great match. All right, I want to see Myles Garrett.
I think hold on. I think after seeing what they did to Lane Johnson's locker, after the All-Pro team and the Pro, I think Philly does want to see Penei Sewell. I do. I think they do.
Okay. Would you like to see Marcus Davenport? Huh? Derek Lash, by the way, smash that like button. Appreciate you. Doc put out, which we're going to talk to the Doc in about 10 minutes, but the Doc put out an article today, and I thought it was interesting because we've talked to Marcus Davenport. But I actually have an angle on this, and I want to know what Klotzy thinks about it. Okay, and the question he posed to the people was, what contract could the Lions offer Marcus Davenport? Shout out to Christian for writing it. Listen, I know what people are going to say. They're going to say, no, I don't want Davenport back. All right. And you go down, they have it at about $5.5 million 1 year, $5.5 million, whatever the number is. The question is, there's 2 questions. 1, would you like him back? 2, what would you pay for him? which would be pennies, guys. Like, it ain't going to be nothing. Hear me out on this, because I've been very critical of the Marcus Davenport. You have too. You were right away critical of it. Them bringing in Davenport, you never thought it was going to work. Okay, and that's fair. But hear me out. What if? Hold on, Klotzy. Hold on. Everyone in the chat, hold on. Stick with me now. See, tell me if I'm cooking or I'm just completely off on this. You draft an edge. You have Za'Darius. Maybe whatever. What if you brought Davenport back for pennies to be depth? We just saw the Eagles. They go like 8 deep, dude, on the defensive line. What if Davenport isn't even supposed to play? What if he's just a depth piece? What do you think of that? What if he's just a body?
Let's Google real quick. So when you think of a depth piece, how many snaps do you think they play in a season? Let's use
I would say
would you use Al-Quadid Muhammad as a depth piece this year?
Well, this year he played a lot because of injuries.
But he's a depth piece. He wasn't a starter.
But they needed I'm talking. Okay, so if you have Aiden,
I'll ask you this straight up then so we won't play games. Do you think Marcus Davenport would be able to withstand Al-Quadid Muhammad's workload this year? Because injuries will happen on the defensive line, and then going to ask Marcus Davenport to step up.
So I think let me answer that with this. When I look at the edges, I see Aiden, I see Za'Darius, I see a rookie.
Yep.
Would you throw Josh? I guess would he be in that mix?
If we're talking strictly edges, no.
So that's 3. Al Muhammad 4. What if I told you Marcus Davenport's in there?
What if I told you we can sign another free agent that's proven to stay healthy? What if I told you, Jeff? Let me tell you this.
Okay.
I can give you a guy. Over the last 3 seasons, Marcus Davenport has had under 5 sacks. What if I told you we can go out there in free agency this year for pennies, for cheap, especially if you're going.
All right, I'm hearing you.
I can get you a guy who had 5 sacks last year. What if I can do you better? What if I can bring you 2 guys in free agency?
Will that player be okay with
you better? Real quick, and show you what Spirit of Detroit podcast gifted us. LMAO, Lions fans worried about Philly so bad, but we lost the Commanders. Y'all got to relax, bro. We should handle it. Thank you for the donation. Appreciate that. Didn't read it out earlier. What if I told you that we can do the same thing that you and I agree on with Derek Barnes to Marcus Davenport and just say, you know what? Appreciate your time here. Didn't work out. Let's move on. Let's upgrade. Let's get better. What if I could offer you a Jordan Birch and a Jared Ivey? And we can get a defensive tackle.
Okay.
Come on.
So 2 rookies.
Come on.
Okay. I'm not opposed. Now this is a theory of mine. I'm thinking to myself, listen, if you had Marcus Davenport back and he was in a role, a depth piece, I'm looking at the Eagles. The reason why I brought it up is I'm looking at the Eagles, not that they have Davenport's playing, but imagine a scenario where you're 4 or 5 deep at edge and Marcus is the 4th or 5th guy. I think I'm more comfortable with that because I don't know Marcus Davenport personally, obviously, but I think at this point, I don't think he has leverage to be I want to go somewhere where I want to play. No, dude, you're a depth piece. That's what you are. You're not if you sound like a Matthew Judon, he wants to play. You know what I mean? He wants to play a lot of snaps. I think Davenport would be okay with just being hey, we'll bring you back. You're part of a good team. Just be a body. You know what I mean? Now, if you're going to tell me they draft 2 edges, I'll listen. But I don't think it's that crazy to have Davenport at the back of the, the depth chart as hey, he's, it sounds really bad saying this. I hate him, but he's kind of like the break the glass.
He's your plan. He's your plan, not B, not C, not D. He's your plan F. He's your plan F.
Yeah.
And
you're shit, break the glass. And it's Davenport.
But if you're Marcus Davenport, why would you want to do that?
Well, what leverage does he have?
You could go to any NFL team and get more money at that point, or just at least have more playing time so you can prove why you should get more money. Jacksonville. Apparently, I saw a report today. They're offering Levi Onwuzurike $42 million, willing to. If he's getting 42, Levi, Marcus Davenport will at least get 6. He'll get 6. That's what he got in Detroit. He ain't getting it again. I can promise you that much. Like
Vincent says Davenport basically a Mosley. Well,
you think okay? Let's say he
that's
makes it
actually
to
not a bad. That's actually not a bad thing by Vincent. I can. That's not a bad comp. But go ahead, Klotz. Go ahead.
I said, like, if we got to see him make it through training camp, like that's what we're talking. That's one of the Emmanuel Mosley, and it just sounds like I'm trying to bash on him, but like he was a good player in New Orleans. But we have seen it's just how the NFL is. Guys' careers derail because of injuries, and that is a clear example of Marcus Davenport. It's like asking a snake not to bite you. Like you see a snake rattling and you're going to walk towards it, keeps rattling, and it's going to bite you.
Yeah.
Like you knew it was going to happen. It's been happening. It's known to happen. And you think it's just going to change because it's different because now it's the Lions in this position. That's the team that we're a fan of. And it's because now Marcus Davenport, no, he'll be good next year because he's with the Lions now. He'll be able to stay healthy even as a rotation. Like, no, man, no. It's just not what's going to happen.
Like if you love something, you got to let it go. You know, it's like,
or if something doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I think, like, I don't know. Well, I don't think love's in the equation here.
Yeah.
Marcus Davenport will not be my Valentine. I can
that's
promise
that's fair. He's injury prone. I get that, and I hated the fact that he was starting. He's a body. I'm open to it. But we'll see.
All right. So is Broderick Martin and civilians on the sideline. Body.
Yeah.
Gets in there against the Packers. Now, Marcus Davenport, Broderick Martin, obviously two different players, but it's the Detroit Lions, Jeff. We're talking like, where would you see Marcus Davenport? Do you think the Eagles would sign Marcus Davenport if he's a free agent?
No.
So why should the Lions?
Because they have a ton of the guys already.
All right. Do you think if Marcus Davenport was a free agent, the San Francisco 49ers would sign him?
Who knows? Maybe.
You know, like probably not. Probably not. He won't be on their board, but he's
maybe John Lynch is thinking.
Bottom. He would be their like, okay, break glass of emergency free agent signing. Like if you have these contenders, if you ask like the Chiefs, they're not bringing in a Marcus Davenport. They're not. Why would they waste even $1 million on a player that's not most likely not going to be healthy? If teams like that aren't signing Marcus Davenport, why should the Detroit Lions?
Hey, let's look at this. Wheezy D says if Davenport was on Philly, Lions fans would glaze Howie for being a sleuth.
A sleuth. One man's trash is another man's treasure, apparently.
He said they couldn't get him off the field. You heard how AG and Dan was glazing Davenport.
I mean, sure.
And
it's
then
not that he's
Bruce
not
Irvin.
talented. It's that he's not healthy.
Shifgot says Bruce Irvin on one leg was more useful.
Kyle Pecco, bring him home. Bring him back. Reunite him.
Rick C says James Poopstain was more useful than Davenport.
Well, okay, here's a good one. Would you rather, because you can't bring everybody back, would you rather sign AQM or Marcus Davenport? Because I feel like whoever they re-sign, that's going to be their break glass in case of emergency. AQM or Marcus Davenport when you need to get after the quarterback. Or Nowoski, Trevor Nowoski.
No, it ain't gonna be no. It'd be AQM. It'd be AQM.
That's my point. That's just where I stand on it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's where, and I know it's a different position, but with the Derek Barnes thing, like if Derek Barnes left, would I be freaking out if you had to move it around and put Malcolm Rodriguez in the starting three linebackers? Like, no, I wouldn't be. That's why it's like, okay, that guy you can move off of then.
Well, hey, we'll see what happens. You never know. Maybe Marcus Davenport. Maybe he's the splash signing. You know, maybe
what they needed.
Yeah.
Regenerate. He's what they were missing down the playoff stretch.
Yeah.
Marcus Davenport's what they needed against Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, maybe Brad. I don't know. Maybe he comes back. We'll see I wonder what happens with that. Like if Brad pivots on for Marcus Davenport, he's admitting like it was a bust. You know what I mean? Which like I think he should. But I would be open to maybe a little back to the depth chart piece.
What do you think of the? Because we were talking about Marcus Davenport, but I brought up Broderick Martin for a second. I'm just interested in like where do you stand with the people that say it's still too early to tell about Broderick, where it's like you can't label him a bust yet.
I think at this point he's a bust. Now can he turn that around? Yeah, he could. I mean, it happens, but I think at this point, like, I don't know what else would you call him. He's still developing. Like, we haven't even seen any development.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. That's where I would call him at this point. I don't think it's crazy to look at a player and be like, this guy at this point is a bust. Like, it's like if Jeff Okudah came out next year on another team and was great, it's like, was he still a bust up to that point? Yeah, like, and not that he was a top pick like Okudah, but Broderick was third round. He was a third round pick.
Yeah, trade up for him.
Yeah, that's a high pick, man. That's not like a Mekhi Wingo, All right, let's bring in Boone. He's here. All right, we got back to in a little bit. Boone, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
Oh no, am I frozen?
No, you're back. You're good.
Jeez, man, what a bad start, boys. How are we doing, Klotzy? Hey, by the way, I just drove in the North Pole for about an hour.
Yeah, I was just saying, how was the drive, Boone?
Buddy, hey, listen, when they talk about pace of play, when they talk about things like that, listen, I'm at the front of the car out there. I control the pace of the roads. That's me. I control the full pace of the road. You're going my speed limit. I'm not going 70. 10-2. I'm getting to where I need to go, and I'm living another day here on this beautiful earth. So yeah, it was a crazy trip, bro. It's crazy out there.
It is bad.
Oh God, it's bad.
I was just saying. I mean, dude, they said it's going to go for until 7 or 8 a.m. and it's 8 p.m. and it's like the roads are. It's like no one should go anywhere.
Is it like icy up there? Because like right now it's not even snow. It's just straight ice. And I went like probably like 7:15. I left something in my car and I like forgot it was icy, dude. And I ate fucking shit going down my stairs going to my car.
Ice and rain, and then it just started turning into just straight snow, and then it was just ice, and then now it's just snow. It's tough. I just want to say a thing before Doc comes on because I did listen. I didn't listen right away until I had an opportunity to turn the show on. I heard about floaty clots. Just floaty clots.
Yeah.
Floaty clots. Clots.
You can call me scared all you
scared
want.
Clots. Little scared Klotz.
Yeah,
Chicken Little. You guys ever seen that movie? Klotzy's the star of it. Listen, Klotz, you did this same bit last year when I said I wanted the San Francisco 49ers. And you go, no. Give me the Rams. Give me the Vikings. Give me this. And guess what happened? They pushed the 49ers to the end. It didn't matter. None of it mattered. No, I want this. Klotz, I don't care if you lose right away. That means, guess what? You learn. You find a way. Now you know, and you have all season to fix it. We started 10-1 last year. I don't care about let's get off to a hot start. If we're not there yet, we're gonna find out week 1. And guess what? You have 17 weeks to go fix it. Hey, grow some, you know what, and be a man and want to go out there and play the best football and the best people in the NFL right away and show the NFL what you're about. And if you're not there yet, you have 17 weeks to get ready. Instead of last year when it's like, oh, you're 10-1. This is so cool. Like, woohoo. And then you don't play anyone until the playoffs and you get absolutely ran off the field. All right. That's my thing.
Floaty cloud.
Yeah, you can rebuttal.
Hey, floaty cloud.
So here's my rebuttal to it. And you make good points. You and Jeff both make good points. I'm not saying that it's a bad take. Now, my take is we talked about, who did I say last year I wanted week 1? The Rams. What happened? You won. Great momentum boost, a parallel. And your offense didn't look great either, but you still won that game. If you would have played the defending Super Bowl championship, I don't know. Either way, you're going to get tested whether you play Philly week 1 or not. Dude. If you go back through the schedule and say, oh, you're just going to go into the playoffs and get slammed. No, you're not, dude. You have to play Baltimore, Cincinnati, Philadelphia, Kansas City.
You're going to learn.
Washington, all on the road. This team is going to be tested. Hold on. You're going to be tested numerous times throughout the season. So my point is, Philly week 1. Philly's a team that I would love to be prepared for because Lions, we'd expect to be a top 2 seed in the NFC. Next year, you can expect Philly to be a top 2 seed in the NFC. I would hate to have a loss to Philly bite you in the ass from a loss week 1.
Oh,
you have all offseason to prepare.
I would hate to lose to them in week 17 and week 1. Klotz, you just had your whole thing. You had your the statement, and we got to get the doc in. So this is I'll end it here and we'll be done because you already had 15 minutes earlier, Klotzy. I heard you go on for 15 minutes, and I had to throw my phone out the window listening to you blabber about it. But the last thing I'll say is you talking about, hey, give me the Ravens. I don't care if it's AFC, NFC. It's a contending team. Like your first point is, I don't want to play a team that good right away. And the Ravens are up there. Who cares if it's AFC, NFC?
The playoff picture.
You find a way. You find a way. Who cares?
It matters.
Yeah. And you know what, Klotz? You're the one. Listen, and this is how you contradict yourself all the time, Klotzy. You do it with a lot of different points that you have in different arguments. You're the one that sits up here and you go, you sit there and you go, I would rather not have the 1 seed. I really don't care about the 1 seed. But then in this argument, all you care about is the 1 seed. You can't keep flip-flopping like you want to be in a floaty at the beach, buddy. Man lives on the beach with the flip-flops and the floaties. All right, Doc. Let's get Doc in here. Klotz,
I'd rather not live in La La Land like you are right now, Booner. Give me the floaties. I'll be in reality in the water. You'll be up there floating in La La Land.
Seed. Don't flip-flop your takes so it fits your narrative and different takes, Klotzy. Don't do it because I heard it on my way here.
Seated exactly where they should.
I'm shocked Jeff didn't call that out too because I've heard you say a million times you don't care about the 1 seed, but all of a sudden, hey, I'm scared to play the Eagles because of the 1 seed. Oh my God, who cares? You play football, you win the game. Give me the best team on the schedule week 1, primetime football, Thursday night, and we'll beat them and run them off Lincoln Financial Field. All right.
Hey, I want to get the Doc
in. I'm fired up now, man. I just sat here like this for an hour and a half.
You see my analogy, Boone? It's like those kids, they throw them in the pool and they don't have a life jacket. They just kind of float.
Oh, dude, yeah. We need to get this guy some floaties for
kind of messed up.
And then the one turns into Michael Phelps, baby.
Get him some flip-flops. Hey, get him some flip-flops and get him some floaties. Some like those arm floaties.
Klotzy wants a floaty. It's okay.
You wouldn't put a guy like that as your CPO, Boone. We both
start making some sandcastles, Klotzy. All right, let's get the Doc in.
All right, we got the man, the myth, the legend, publisher, Detroit Lions on Sports Illustrated. Does great work. We just broke down actually Christian's article about 10 minutes ago. They do a great job. So check it out. Follow the Doc, Detroit Podcast. And as always, brought to you guys by BetUS. Let's bring him in. Lots to get to. Mr. John Maakaron. John, how we doing?
Man, always enjoy a great debate. Booner, I'm glad you made it safe. It's a good time to talk football, man. It's a good time, brothers.
Hey, Doc, let me just ask you off the rip. Amon-Ra St. Brown says, I want Philly week 1 in Philly. Me and Booner are on the same page. We want Philly. Klotzy wants Philly, but at a later time. It's like a TBH or a TBD. We want them down the line. What does Doc say about the Amon-Ra thing and potentially squaring off with Philly? Where are you at?
Yeah, man, I love the idea. I think that it's one of those deals where I understand both sides of the argument. Look, the way the Lions have kind of started the last couple years, the first quarter of the season, they don't play starters in the preseason. So that maybe gives you a chance to maybe have a realistic chance of winning the game. But in terms of entertainment, in terms of quality, mano a mano, I'd maybe prefer it later in the year. But I would love to kind of get that taste out of everybody's mouth, that everybody's kind of feeling like, man, this Lions team would have really, if they were healthy, what kind of matchup would they have had against the Eagles? And credit to the Eagles. They won the Super Bowl. They dominated on the defensive line. Lord help Jared Goff, because if Taylor Decker and Graham Glasgow played the way they kind of did throughout the year, Jared Goff might have ate the turf a little bit. But next year, I expect that, it's probably, I think everybody's kind of looking at potentially the Bears, the Commanders, or the Lions. And look, just based on ratings, the Lions have been a squad that in primetime, they handle a lot of business. So bring on the Eagles and let's test out what Brad Holmes does in one of the biggest off seasons of his career.
Doc, you said it right there, though. Brad Holmes, the big topic around Lions Twitter, and I'm sure you've seen it. Jeff ruffled a couple feathers, it seemed like. What are your thoughts on this whole Brad Holmes situation? Obviously, I don't think Jeff's point, and we talked about it yesterday, it wasn't that it was Brad Holmes' fault that people kind of ran with it and took it that way, but more so just, hey, Brad has had an opportunity, to draft defensive linemen, and he's kind of hit on 2 out of the 7 that he's drafted. What are your thoughts on that situation and how he needs to approach this trade deadline, not the trade deadline, the off season, to be able to come out kind of to where fans could be a little confident in the corners and the pass rush?
Yeah, by the way, shout out to the Doc. This is why he's a real friend. There's not too many people out there that are real.
Awesome.
Doc is a real one. He texted me the minute I posted. He's like, I got you. That was a good, I love you, Doc. Just wanted to say that.
You're a legend, Doc.
Yeah, it was great because literally as you posted it, I was in the middle of saying the exact same thing when you watch a Super Bowl and you look at it and you're going, man, no blitzes. The defensive line of the Eagles dominates. That is what I want to see if the Lions were to win. That's what I've been saying this whole time, being that I love defense. Howie Roseman built a defense. He actually did the same thing as the Lions in regards to drafting 2 cornerbacks this year. And you got to remember, guys, I don't think it's wrong to look at the Eagles and say, man, look at what they're doing. They've been in a Super Bowl. They lost, retooled, got back, and won. So let's not be one of those people that just says, oh, the Lions, that their way and Brad Holmes is God. Look, Brad Holmes has done a great job. He's we've all said this, quickly cemented himself as being one of the best Lions GMs, okay? And we all have to get out of this habit of saying, okay, he's Lions good, and now we got to step into, is he NFL good? And in the world of the NFL, he's done great in taking the Lions quickly to ascend. But the Lions had a down year, and yes, there were injuries. But at the same token, it was clear that the Lions' defensive line, once Davenport and Aiden Hutchinson went down, there was not enough depth. And that unit, the defensive line, there's reasons the Lions are not Super Bowl champions as we sit here today. We should all be celebrating the Lions this week. It's not happening. It didn't happen. The Lions took a step back. And the defensive line and the offensive line not living up to the billing were one of the big reasons. That's what Vito wrote about at Lions on SI. It's so true. When the moment was the brightest, the trenches collapsed. They weren't the best. Glasgow and Decker weren't the best down the stretch. Now, when you look at the defensive line, outside of the roster decisions, and we'll talk about that, also look at the coaching staff. It has not been consistent. There's been no stability along the defensive line coach. You had Todd Wash for a couple years. He goes on, he moves on. And then you have John Scott Jr. That probably was a mistake to bring in an inexperienced defensive line coach. Then you go to an experienced, a well-respected coach in Terrell Williams, but he moves on. So now you go to Casey Rogers. You hope for more stability there. There's one reason it hasn't gelled. The other reason, too, is that I think that when you look at it from the perspective of what people expected in the Lions from Josh Paschal, Levi Onwuzurike, James Houston, it just hasn't been to the degree of productivity and development that you would like. And look, a general manager has to recognize where he's done well and where there needs to be areas of improvement. Aiden Hutchinson, you get credit. Ali McNeil, credit. But the rest of it has to be looked at in a way to say, okay, you got Mekhi Wingo coming in. And I think the biggest thing when people say, why aren't we here today praising the Lions winning a Super Bowl? All right. Five players that could have been contributors. 3 of them were developmental picks. When you look at Manu and Broderick Martin and Hendon Hooker, they're taking up spots, not contributing. And then you get Ennis Rakestraw, who this year just in one of those deals where you go, man, you could have used a second-round pick that was playing instead of a redshirt year. And then the Mosley free agent signing just was a flop. That's 5 guys that you could have had contributing to a football team. So I do think that adjustments need to be made. Quite simple. No more projects, ready-made guys to compete, and free agency. If the injury history is ACL, Achilles, sorry, you're not coming to the Detroit Lions in 2025.
And Doc, you just talked about free agency, and obviously defensive line is where you'd like to see Brad focus a lot of that. But now shifting to the draft, let's say they don't acquire Myles Garrett or a big name guy at the edge spot, and they have those first 2 picks. We talked yesterday. Do you have a preference on like what positions they go in those first 2 rounds? The fellas said they wouldn't mind defensive end, defensive tackle, or vice versa. I said I'm very strong on I think we need 2 edges because when you look at Brad Holmes, he's really only drafted 2 edges in his career in Detroit. Where do you land on that argument of your preference falling in those first 2 rounds?
Yeah, it's defensive line, defensive tackle, edge rusher. You got to find. I mean, this class is deep, so I understand that it could go a different way where you maybe find these players later in the draft. But I think that just looking at the model of Howie Roseman, who I think we all can say is probably one of the top 2 general managers in the National Football League outside of each with Kansas City, you look at it and you say, all right, what did they do? What are they doing well? first round pick, defensive lineman, first round pick, edge rusher, first round pick, defensive tackle. And so where did he get them from? Georgia. Man, you start looking at some of the tape and it stinks because I'm letting you guys know a little bit of maybe some of my content plans maybe in the next couple of weeks. But Brad Holmes has been aggressive to move up in the draft. And I'm saying it now. Brad, package some picks and move up. I think Mikael Williams from Georgia is amazing. Those are guys. There's 2 guys from Georgia that are legitimately worthwhile. And now this idea is crazy, but who's to say why not? If you're in the F them picks model, there is a dude that looks to be a double-digit sack guy right now. If the number 1 team, the Titans, want to trade out and they don't want a whole heck of a lot, whatever it's going to be, 2 first-rounders, 3, I wouldn't mind going up to number 1 for Abdul Carter. That guy.
Oh my God! What are we, Doc? What are we?
Hey, why not?
What
say
are we
it?
doing
Listen,
here?
What are we doing? We're saying if you're not going to, what I'm saying is, and you understand the reality of what I'm saying, if you're not going to get Myles Garrett, okay, if you're not going to give it up, then I would say move up to 15, 16, draft the best edge rusher. And if you can swing at number 1, why not? I think that Abdul Carter is going to be one of those players that's going to be around for a long time, getting 12 to 15 sacks every year. So I look at it and say, why not take a swing? And I'm of the opinion that if you're a draft and develop guy, if there's a guy that you like along the defensive line, you go up and get him. It's probably not going to be up to number 1. Okay. But what I'm saying is if they target somebody that they really like, and people say, oh, he's not going to be there, you go up there and get him, whether it be Mike Green, whoever it may be. But I think the strategy that clearly everybody saw at the Super Bowl, if you can win with a 4-man front, my God. And guys, this is draft season. And I know it's the reality of them going up to number 1 is very low, but they've gone up to 12. They've moved around the draft. So we don't know the plans for the draft, just as we're all speculating as much. So I'm always of the opinion, go bold or go home. And I do think that there are some players that are edge rushers that you could trade up for, and you can make a move as well. So if you're not going to be aggressive in free agency, be aggressive in the draft.
Well, speaking of free agency, Christian did a really good job breaking down the Marcus Davenport potential return. But I want to ask you, Doc, what do you make? Me and Klotz and Booner joined, gave his opinion. We went back and forth on the Marcus Davenport stuff. And in my opinion, do I want him starting? Absolutely not. But I'm seeing what the Eagles are doing with all these defensive linemen. They go 6 deep. What do you think about maybe bringing back Davenport as just a body, someone in that defensive line room? Or are you completely out, move him out, or move on from him?
Yeah, I love the assignment that I gave. I gave him the assignment. I would say I disagree with him, though. I think his contract that he threw out, and you can check it out, today's coverage, Lions on SI, he put 1 year, $5.5 million. I think that's too much. I think you have a lot of leverage to maybe give him a 1 year deal, $2.5 million, and a lot of it incentives. So look, man, I got the impression from the responders and the commenters in a lot of different spots. They're like, no, absolutely not. No way, no how. I get it. And I would not be upset in any way if they move on from Marcus Davenport. But if they want to take a chance and you get him for a couple million and, you want to take another swing, he could be someone that could be there for depth, someone else as well that could kind of be in the room to help out. And maybe Casey Rogers could develop it. The problem is when you have somebody that just cannot stay on the field, the risks just, to me, outweigh the rewards. But if you give them a couple $1 million contract and a lot of it is incentives, then you build in some motivation. So, it's one of those deals where at the same token, now what the familiarity would be with, Calvin Shepard, does he view it the same way? So I think it's going to be a long shot for Davenport to be here in Detroit, just based on the fact that he's not really all that much reliable and available. But if it's less than $3 million and it's one of those prove it kind of deals, I'm not opposed to it, as some of the fans were just ripping the whole idea. And I get it. I get the idea that the Lions need to move in a direction where they bring more healthy bodies to the defensive line.
Hey, Doc, I'm going to just stick on the defense. It feels like this is like a defensive-themed show here with you. Just trying to get these conversations out. The corner room, we saw the Amik and Terrion kind of make those statements. I saw you did an article about it as well. But I saw on Twitter that they made the statements, and I think it was Amik that said he's going to have the best year of his career next year. I just want to get from you, like, how confident are you in these corners going into next year? Because like Terrion, I think a lot of people give him like a B, a C grade his rookie year. He kind of got a little better, but still struggled. Are you confident going into next year with like this room, and then like maybe Ennis Rakestraw stepping up? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's one of those things where, of course, we should be talking defense. You know, defense wins championships, and the Eagles showed that, hey, the Chiefs were obviously all out of sorts, but part of the reason was the fact that, you know, the Eagles dictated the game to the Chiefs. And that's kind of how I think everybody feels like, man. And that's kind of what my thesis was. I didn't go out there on the internet and call Brad Holmes the loser of the Super Bowl like some. But what I said was, I feel cheated. I feel like the Lions were built, if they would stay healthy in 23 and 24, they had a chance to win it. And I don't know why everyone got upset at that comment, because I feel cheated. I feel like the Lions were robbed of a Super Bowl. They should, based on the work Brad Holmes did, the talent that was acquired on both sides of the ball. You feel cheated. 23, I think Jeff agreed as well that they maybe should have took a bigger swing than Donovan Peoples-Jones. And I think that Brad Holmes' lack of aggressiveness in free agency cost the city. I think that it's one of those deals where I feel like the Lions were Super Bowl caliber. And yeah, injuries play a factor, but man, the way in which you played was so unusual against the Commanders. It was just left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. And now you got to rebuild the defensive line. Everybody knows it. I think Brad Holmes is going to target it. And I think you're going to get a couple. And it's going to be interesting to see what kind of way in which they do it. Is it the draft, free agency? And then one of the other areas, I think you're set at linebacker and safety. Clearly, you can add depth and more development as well. The cornerbacks, you probably are going to have to probably pay up for Carlton Davis. I think that it lends to some good flexibility when you have Terrion Arnold, Amik Robertson, and Carlton Davis. I could go with that. But if Carlton, you get into too high of a bidding war, maybe you try DJ Reed, who's kind of been starting to be linked to Detroit. The Saints defensive back, who's a pending free agent, is a name that's out there. Maybe you go in the draft as well. But here's the factor. How does Ennis Rakestraw play into all this? I thought that, we didn't get a chance to really see much of anything to make a full, well-reasoned evaluation of the player, but you hope he takes the next step, because it's one of those deals where you invested a high draft pick in him and he's got to step up. But I would say that Carlton Davis is going to be paid handsomely. I hope it's in Detroit. I think it gives everybody a little bit more confidence. Terrion Arnold, man, listen. And I hope this doesn't get like a horrible reaction, but I'm of the opinion that when you look at it and you go, and of course it's prisoner of the moment, but Terrion Arnold, Ennis Rakestraw, or Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell, just based on the bias of what I was previewing last year, I like DeJean and Mitchell a little bit more, and now they're Super Bowl champions. But you just hope that the development of Terrion Arnold kind of expedites this next year, because he made plays, but not enough impactful plays. And you just hope that the development is worthy of him being a first-round pick. But, man, I would have loved to have seen DeJean and Mitchell in Detroit uniforms.
And, Doc, somebody that we talked about before previously, and you guys did do an article on him, and it seems like he's probably going to be heading back to Detroit, but after the Super Bowl, you never know. Kevin Zeitler, when you see the Chiefs' offensive line struggle that bad and see that they could use pretty much every offensive position. Joe Thuney's great. They try to play him at tackle. He should be a guard, so they got that, but they need another guard. When you look at Kevin Zeitler, do you think there's any chance that he might leave Detroit and try to go win a ring elsewhere?
Yeah, that's one of those deals with the offensive line, is that I feel like Zeitler did pretty well. But you now have a young player in Christian Mahogany that I think really acclimated well, given the opportunities that he had. And you wish that he wasn't dealing with illness and kind of had an opportunity to get out there a little bit more. But you can't go. See, here's the deal. Decker older, Graham Glasgow older. You got to get younger on the offensive line. So I'm thinking that it's a long shot that Zeitler comes back. Maybe if it's affordable. I do think that Mahogany has taken his spot. It's one of those deals where I do think that the draft also has some good players, man. And here's the thing, which was awesome for me. This year, I went to a handful of games at the Big House and at Michigan State, and I got to see up close. And the first notes I took were, my God, the Oregon offensive line, the Ohio State offensive line, the Texas offensive line, they were just athletic, strong. And so if you want to start replacing some of the guys on the Lions and bringing in some competitiveness, there's some guys that you're going to start seeing that we're going to write about at Lions on SI that you could bring in the draft. And here's what's great is that everybody's seeing two areas of strength in this draft: offensive line and defensive line. There's a lot of talented offensive linemen that you can go out there and get and plug early on. So, and you also have to count on, if this is the situation in which you are selling to people, draft and develop means that, all right, guys like Iguakun, guys like Colby Sorsdahl, guys like Manu, they got to start to compete for some of these jobs. And maybe the name that is going to see less snaps or be a tough decision is Dan Skipper as well, because you got to upgrade. You always got to compete at the highest levels. And Dan Skipper's great, but if there's an opportunity to upgrade, you definitely take it. But yeah, it's a great question. Zeitler's going to be one of those question marks that you could see going either way. But I'm of the opinion you get younger and you move on from Glasgow and Zeitler.
Well, Doc, I want to ask you, because speaking of kind of the week one matchup and going into the season, when we had the discussion, the biggest concern is new staff when you face a good team like the Eagles. I want to ask you about the offensive staff, because recently Lions hired another offensive assistant. Is it Tyler Knoll? Knoll, I believe it. Knoll is how you say it. You already have Bruce Gradkowski, David Shaw.
419 legend.
419 legend, a part of Johnny Morton's staff, the Johnny Mo show. But when I look at these guys, Tyler, I'm sure bright minds offensively, but my question to you would be, Tyler, first NFL job was at Iowa State. Bruce, NFL quarterback, backup quarterback, if I'm not mistaken, never actually coached in the NFL. David Shaw, I think he's been a while since he's been in the NFL. We obviously love the hire of David Shaw. What do you make of now that the staff's assembled, just the offensive staff, your confidence, and I guess confidence in the staff, and also that some of the guys aren't really experienced coaching in the NFL, except for really David Shaw?
Yeah, it's going to be one of those things where we'll get some insight at the combine as well regarding the revamped staff. But I look at it like many people were in favor of some of these hires in regards to kind of the ascending offensive mind. And I think that what Dan Campbell does is he likes to really work in a lot of different ideas and football minds to help kind of, when you look at an offense and you look at what's going on, you want to bring in ideas and you want to bring in the opportunity to say, all right, what's been working for some of these college teams? And Iowa State did well. I think there's a wide receiver that is kind of moving up the draft boards as well. So you look at it and you say, all right, what's going on with these offensive minds that they can bring to the table and offer up ideas in different spots with Dan Campbell and with John Morton. And I think that there's an opportunity here for these new minds to come in. And remember, here's the thing. It all starts at the top. When you're led by Dan Campbell, there's a lot of opportunities to teach and a lot of opportunities to develop coaches as well. And I know that people will say, well, maybe, you look at the Eagles and they had two established coordinators. And when they rebuilt from Matt Patricia and their former defensive coordinator, they went out and got Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore, two NFL caliber coaches. And there's something to that. But I do think that Kelvin Shepherd is going to shine. I think he's got the right mentality. On offense, I just think it's one of those deals where on defense, the age-old adage is it's about the X's and the O's a little bit more than the Jimmies and the Joes. On the other side of the ball, it's all about the Jimmies and the Joes. There's so much talent offensively that the inner workings has a chance to be successful with a variety of different coaches. You have pure talent that will, I think, flourish with a variety of different ideas and coaches. And it's one of those deals where it gets intricate. Like, all right, look at what the Eagles did in terms of running it 56% of the time this year. You had Saquon Barkley, who didn't even break one against the Chiefs, didn't have really even a prototypical prop bet game that people thought. Vegas lost their ass in regards to a lot of Vegas got a lot of bets on the Eagles, but a lot of Vegas won in regards to the player prop bets. A lot of people bet big numbers for Saquon and big numbers for Hurts and things like that, and they didn't hit. And it's one of those deals where I'm loving what the potential of the Lions offense can be. You just got to kind of fine tune it in critical moments. And I'm very curious to see, I think probably we're going to ask John Morton, do you really need all those trick plays? If you have a really solid offense, you run the ball down their throat with Jahmyr Gibbs and you figure out a way to say, hey, Sam Laporta, we need you to start looking like Travis Kelce instead of looking like a tight end, a blocking tight end. And hopefully he stays healthy because we need that production picked up. But I'm excited about the offense. The offense, to me, is Super Bowl caliber. Where people got to panic is figuring out the defense wins championship part for this football team.
Yeah, even offensively, Doc, this thing that we've talked about the last week is Tim Patrick. And I put a tweet out on our socials yesterday, I think the day before, if the Lions should re-sign Tim Patrick. It seems like a lot of the Lions fan base is in on Tim. Where do you stand on that? And like my argument, it hasn't been like, hey, I'm in on signing Tim Patrick. I don't know what the deal would be. But I am also on the side, Doc, towards, hey, bring a third guy in the draft. Are you on that? Or we might have talked to you about that last week, but I know Tim posted something saying that he feels like the best he has in his whole career. I think he posted that like over the weekend. What are your thoughts on that? Have you changed your mind on that at all?
Yeah, I listen, I think Tim Patrick, there's a lot to continuity. There's a lot to say about that. The biggest question mark might be Khalif Raymond, but yeah, you bring in competition. I think you bring in another big-bodied wideout that can be somebody that potentially develops and does some things. Listen, the more weapons, the better. And I do think the Lions will potentially draft a wide receiver this year. And I think that when you look at the offense, all right, how do you best help Jared Goff? And I hate to say it, but in my early review, I'm only halfway through the year. Through the first 6-7 games, that left tackle spot didn't look as promising as many people think.
Doc. I've been saying this, Doc, and they hate when I bring it up.
Then tell them to watch the film, because when you dig into the film, you're like, oh, Taylor Decker is not, and maybe injuries got into it a little bit as well, but he's not looking as great as he has in years past, and you're getting older. I thought he acclimated a little better as the season went on, but the first 6 games, he was not playing at the level of a left tackle that you would say, oh man, that side of the field is potentially where things get a little bit wonky in some of these games. So, you maybe be careful. Maybe they will draft a prototypical left tackle as well as a guard, but we shall see about Taylor Decker's future. He's got to step it up. And I think one of the biggest weaknesses that you'll start to see people report on was the left side of the offensive line was inconsistent and it wasn't as good. So I think that, yes, upgrade the wide receiver spot as much as possible. Look in the draft, free agency. If there's somebody that you feel can help Jared Goff be somebody that can, break in and out of the routes quickly, you maybe look to Denver where John Morton was. You see some potential there, or in the draft you look for. I think this type of receiver you look for is, somebody in the mold of a T. Higgins, somebody fast, able to get out there and quickly adapt and get to where Jared Goff needs to be. But it takes time to develop. But I think the Lions offense as a whole should give people a lot of confidence. I think that the continuity will be a huge factor for them. But the offensive line needs a little bit of tinkering.
Doc, can you confirm for me, just because I missed some things in the Lions world, but I know you're all over 24/7. Lions have not hired a replacement for Antoine Randall, correct?
I do not think officially there's been a couple assistants. They have not given them titles yet, but yeah, officially I think the tight ends coach officially titled and the wide receivers coach have not been officially titled as of yet. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out moving forward.
Okay, so something I wanted to ask you, when it's a pipe dream, but I think it's a perfect fit for the Lions as a replacement there. We have Antoine Randall, former Pittsburgh Steeler, played in the Super Bowl champion. Who was his teammate that also played wide receiver there that Amon-Ra St. Brown gets compared to all the time, that's coaching wide receivers right now at Arizona State? Hines Ward. What are the chances, the odds, that the Lions were to bring in Hines Ward at the wide receiver coach position?
Man, that's a great
one.
I love that, Klotzy. Hey, that's unbelievable.
Nobody on Lions Twitter would oppose that in any capacity. I think that Hines Ward is a legend. I think that, he was one of the great receivers. You saw him play big games, and he's got the right mindset too. It's a almost similar replacement in regards to the mindset, the attitude, the swagger in which he would bring to that locker room. I would love that hire. I think that would be an A++ hire. And I do think that with Dan Campbell, the opportunities that you see for ex-players to come in and handle business. Now, maybe I won't give as popular a name, but you're hearing, for some reason, Dan Orlovsky said that he wants to step down from ESPN. You won't see him on television for a long, long time.
Talk to me, Doc.
Do you say if I think Brunell's going to stay, but do you think Dan Orlovsky ends up in the coaching realm? Does he jump to offensive coordinator for the Eagles? I don't think so, but I feel like the tides are swirling that Mr. Orlovsky wants to get into the coaching world. He's a very bright mind, former quarterback, and you recognize that, some of the best coaches are the ones that kind of were the mid-range guys, but he seems to be super smart and could get to help a team. May not be the Lions, but I think that he's got the future looking bright for him wherever he ends up. But I'm wondering why he wanted to take some time off of television. It's a great gig. You talk ball, you're on all the shows, you get made fun of by the boys, you get to travel and do the thing, but it can be a grind. I can understand, but maybe he is somebody that potentially could get an opportunity in the NFL world.
Wow. I mean,
he's bright, don't you think? I think he's got good takes. I think he's got, I do think the quarterbacks that end up, I think that, look at it like this. Who's another name rising up the ranks? David Blau. And I think that when you put smart people in smart rooms, I think they have a chance to succeed. Maybe he'll start off as an assistant somewhere or, work his way up.
Like JT Barrett. Like JT Barrett was.
Like JT Barrett. Exactly. And you have guys on staff as well that potentially could move up as well. And I think that, and as you guys brought up the name, I think that you jarred my memory loose here. Seth Ryan's still on the staff. I think he gets the promotion, the odds-on favorite, somebody that's been there and has a good connection with Jameson Williams. So the odds-on favorite, I think, is an internal promotion for the wide receiver spot. Seth Ryan, the son of Rex Ryan.
Shout out.
Wow, I cannot. I'm having these great names being thrown in the conversation right now. We got Dan Orlovsky, Hines Ward in the same conversation to be a part of the Lions coaching staff. Let me ask you, speaking of the offense, you saw, and we had this discussion yesterday, me and Klotzy to start the show, is what teams, it's a copycat league. Teams always take things from the Super Bowl, whether that's the Eagles defensive line or the importance, again, what I think teams are going to do. The importance of having a running back like Saquon, or at least to that caliber. Lucky enough, the Lions have one. And on most sports books, he's up there. I think on one, I just saw second best odds to win Offensive Player of the Year. How much faith do you have, not only in Jameer to be that Offensive Player of the Year type of player, but to have that Barkley effect this upcoming season?
Yeah, absolutely. Jahmyr Gibbs, big, huge focal point of the Detroit Lions offense. You realize that's why you invested in him over a defensive lineman, and you recognize that, okay, teams build differently, and you recognize, all right, maybe they weren't going to invest in Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith and all those guys and Nakobe Dean. All right, fine. That wasn't your plan. You wanted Lions guys. All right, I get it. You want guys that fit all your profile. But I just would say to Brad Holmes, maybe you adapted just a little bit, that if you see a little bit more talent and you see a little bit less personality fit, you just go get the talent, because you need dogs. You need players that in the biggest moments, like a Josh Sweat, maybe not the best player throughout the regular season, but hey, a veteran, boom, in crunch time, they stepped it up. And that's where, you recognize, man, that was a front four for the Eagles of all time. But now you look at it from the Lions perspective, you need those guys, those skill guys, to take the next step. And the three for the Lions got to be Sam Laporta, Jamison Williams, and Jahmyr Gibbs. If they develop and they are able to get you where you need to go, you have a chance to have a Super Bowl caliber offense. And you recognize that, all right, the final stress point will be just praying that Jared doesn't go off and have a bad game. You hope that he gets into rhythm and the offensive line protects him. It's one of those deals, guys. And that's where we've had the talks all year long. What did the Eagles do to mess up Patrick Mahomes, the great Patrick Mahomes? Pressure from all over the place, winning with a front four and no blitzes. That allowed the secondary to play outstanding. Patrick Mahomes was checking out of, when you watch the film of that game and you watch it intently, he was checking out of reads before the breaks. He was so scatterbrained and tilted. Hate to say it, but Mahomes looked like Jared Goff out there when he plays bad. So you need clearly to protect Jared Goff, give him the opportunity to get the ball out quickly. And in football, what's the way to get into any rhythm offensively? Run the football 4 yards a clip and help your offense early in games. And for the Detroit Lions, some self-inflicted wounds killed them at the worst possible time. But that won't happen in 25. They'll learn from their mistakes and they'll get after it and they'll adapt. And I think that, a nice fresh offseason with a healthy group will remind everybody why the Lions won 15 games. It stings. We're all hurting. We're all doing the finger pointing. We're all, talking about Brad Holmes and what he could have did. But that's for talk online. The nuts and bolts of the operation is make this football team better and compete with the Eagles and the Commanders, because you got a tall task. And I know the let Brad Holmes cook crowd is out there, but he's not the best GM in the NFC. So he's got to do extra to make up for the fact that there's two great minds out there that are competing at a high level. And you also lost some of your front office. They've sprinkled around to your competitors and you've lost coordinators. So Brad Holmes' job is that much harder. Will he live up to the task? Of course, but you can't. And I would never expect him to act the same way he's acted the last 4 years. The first 4 years, get the ingredients and the puzzle. Now, cook the shit the right way and give this fan base a Super Bowl win in 25 or 26.
Hey, you said that very well, Doc, honestly, because he's put a hell of a team together, but you still have to finish the end result and win a Super Bowl. And Hobby Roseman just did it. So I think, the proof's in the pudding there. I do want to, I've seen this on Twitter a lot, Doc, and we've put it out a couple times, Hutch to obviously come back next year, comeback player of the year, potentially defensive player of the year. Some of the comments I'm seeing and some conversation that I think people are having in this world here, questioning like, hey, is Hutch going to be fully not ready to go, but coming off that major of an injury, is that going to affect him moving forward in his career? What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's going to be an impact at all, or do you think Hutch, hey, we're going to see the same Hutch that we saw when he went down in Dallas?
Yeah, it was great in that one of the beat writers went down to Radio Row and had an in-depth conversation with Dr. Chow. Now, the funny part is I report on that, and everybody's like, Dr. Chow hasn't been right in ages. I'm like, he's been okay. He's like, these Twitter doctors are out there doing their thing. They're not perfect, but based on a lot of their work, it's decent. Like anything, you kind of throw it into the mix. Well, per Dr. Chow and per everybody else that kind of talked about it, Aiden's ready to go. He said, my rehab's almost done. I'm ready to train. So my honest opinion is that Aiden is a full go. The issue is going to potentially be, where is the production level going to be for Ali McNeil? Now, we don't know the timetable of when he gets out there, but typically with an ACL, there is a little bit of an acclimation period when you start getting out there. So most people would assume that his 26 season will be better than his 25 season. So the expectation is that he'll get out there maybe by hopefully by the start of the year, but if not, that he won't be the Ali McNeil we know about, that we've seen dominate and have a chance to do his thing until the middle portion of the year, where he's fully healthy, acclimated, trusting everything, and producing at the highest level. So he said he's going to try to push it, but you want to be careful with ACLs so you don't risk a re-injury or another injury to the opposite leg. So that's the biggest concern, because, guys, here's the sick part, and everybody said it. A lot of smart people out there online and people talking about the Lions. The Lions were still winning without Aiden Hutchinson. When Aleem went down, that's when the numbers took a huge dive in the opposite direction in DVOA, yards, points. And then when Alex Anzalone went out, then it just sunk even further. So one of those things where you can piece together one key player on your defensive line out, but multiple, forget about it. So you better stock that defensive line. And then we have to hope, too, that the projects step it up. You have to hope that Broderick Martin can get some reps and get out there, because you invested a pick and I think you traded up to make that selection or made a trade. So you invested in Broderick Martin. So that's going to be another thing that's going to be on Brad Holmes, is that you took two guys in Manu and Martin. You better hope that they actually, if you take projects, that these projects turn out to be something fruitful, because in the end, that's just going to increase the frustration of fans, because you could have taken some really solid players. And in the past, I would have wrote that. I would have said, hey, the Lions took Martin instead of. But after building up an audience and doing more podcasts, I'm not going to do they should have taken X player yet. I'll save that for a different time. You guys don't want to read that. You guys are still stinging from the loss. You don't want to read who they could have had. But I will say this. The Eagles got to the Super Bowl, lost, made a whole bunch of moves, and won a Super Bowl. So in the end, you look at them and go, damn, that kind of was like the Lions blueprint, but done at an elite level. So you can do it, but you got to be elite to win in the NFL.
Doc, I want to pose a question to you, because Jeff asked you about Super Bowl takeaways, and I'm going to give you mine. And that was Jalen Hurts. He's the top quarterback in the NFC. Over the last 3 seasons, he's thrown for over 10,000 yards, rushed for 2,000 yards, thrown for 63 touchdowns, ran for 42, and has a record of 37-10. Like I said, my opinion, after you beat Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, get the MVP, I'm going to respect that. 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. He's my number 1 quarterback heading into the NFC next year. Where do you stand on the top quarterbacks heading into the NFC? What if you had to put together top 5, how would it rank out just based off what you saw this year?
Yeah, I look at it from the perspective of Jalen Hurts. They crafted an offense that suited his needs, and Kellen Moore helped him out by bringing in Saquon, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. That's an offensive line for the ages. That's pretty solid. And for Jalen Hurts, what a makeup. I love the fact that he kept the screensaver of him walking off the field, losing the Super Bowl, the confetti coming down. That's the mindset of grit that you got to have. And I'm very impressed with the makeup of that individual. He's going to be a beast. It's crazy, too, that he can perform, win games in the regular season and the postseason, and have the shift in all those offensive coordinators. He's gone through coaches and offensive coordinators nearly every year, from college to the pros. He barely keeps an offensive coordinator for more than 2 years. I hope they keep a similar system from Kellen Moore, because my goodness, did it play out very well. All right, where do I rank the quarterbacks? I'm very impressed with the athletic, mobile quarterbacks that are out there in the NFC East. So Jalen Hurts 1. I love the potential of Jaden Daniels. I'll put him 3. Jared Goff 4-5 in that mix. Who's the next best NFC quarterback? You look at some of the teams scoring well. You recognize that, what's Dak going to look like? You can't rank him. You can't rank him up there. He's always too turnover prone. Caleb Williams, I think, is going to start to move into the conversation of good quarterbacks pretty soon, but not yet. Maybe you could say Goff is up there 2-3, but yeah, you're absolutely right. But to me, mobility is key. In my humble opinion, it's going to be, Hurts and Jaden Daniels doing some things and putting up some numbers for a long time. And here's the thing, which stinks. I was hoping that maybe the Bears would have offered Cliff Kingsbury the job, but it's one of those deals where They went to Ben Johnson. They found somebody, and Cliff is going to continue his development. So you're going to see a big jump from Jaden Daniels, and I think he's going to do well. So you got an uphill climb, but you got a good one too. You just got to make sure that make sure that offensive line protects them, just like any quarterback. If you saw it, Patrick Mahomes, all-world, legendary, Super Bowl caliber, you get in his face and you disrupt him, you can make any quarterback look average. So I love what Goff can do in the parameters of this offense. You just need him to step it up a little bit. And I'm wondering, I think the biggest thing now this offseason is there's kind of whispers that the Giants might take a swing at trading for Stafford. I'm wondering if he's going to end up staying with the Rams. When you cut out Cooper Kupp, they were close. So there's kind of talks that you've pissed off your franchise quarterback and they may go in a different direction. I wonder where Stafford ends up.
Doc, I just want to follow up with that. I know you said Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts. If you had to start a franchise today, same age they are, everything, who would same contract with who would you take? Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts. Who are you taking to start your franchise with?
No, I'd take Jaden Daniels. I think that he's got it all: mobility, faster, stronger. I think that he's got the right people all around him, the right makeup. I think he's basically Hurts with a little bit more athleticism, a little bit more strength, height, and just a little bit better across the board. Now, Hurts is the more polished, well-rounded athlete, seen more, but I think the ceiling is higher for Jaden Daniels. And I'm very impressed by what he's done, and he's in the perfect system. I had a chance to talk to him at the I kept my notes here, and I looked at him. I went out to an event at the draft, and I talked to Caleb directly, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and some of the defensive linemen. I was like, wow, these guys are well-polished, trained, able to handle all the questions. But Malik Neighbors had the diva flash that you're like, oh, my God, all these receivers are like the same. They give me the ball like I'm the man mentality. But Jaden Daniels was composed, did not get rattled by any questions, did not get rattled by talks of like, hey, we know Commanders or anything. He just was smooth operator, comes from a winning program with LSU, in the right absolute system to succeed. That's how you do it, is you have some players around these guys and you build them a defense, and you have an offensive wizard that can put, and then did you hear the news today? The Commanders want to surround Scary Terry with another solid receiver. They put it out there that they're looking for more help. Please, God, don't give Jaden Daniels more help. Just let's give him less help, because it's going to be a nightmare to battle the Eagles and the Commanders in the NFC East for years to come.
Well, I want to ask you, because Boone brought this up yesterday, and I think, I had to stop and really listen to what Boone was saying. He put on his referee outfit, and he declared that the Kansas City Chiefs dynasty has come to an end. Doesn't mean they can't win a Super Bowl in the future, but he means near future, with aging stars, Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, both up there. Where are you at? You think the Kansas City Chiefs should be favored to make the Super Bowl again next year, or do you think it'll be maybe like the Warriors went through this, the Patriots went through this, where it's like a 2-year gap, or maybe a 1-year gap, and then they get back at some point? Or you think they get right back next year?
Listen, it's going to be tougher, man. No, I think that they have to do some retooling. Kelsey's quickly washed. He's done. I think he's going to retire. I think that you need to retool a little bit. I think that, you need to kind of get some more offensive weapons. You got to be a little bit more bold. I think they take a step back. I think that they'll be a perennial playoff team, but the next era, in my opinion, is I would foreshadow a Bills-Ravens rivalry here for the next couple of years. I think that you got two hungry guys in the AFC, and that's not even talking about the hunger that Joe Burrow is going to bring to the table. So the AFC is a crazy. It just really credit Andy Reid and that coaching staff for getting back. But I think that the Chiefs take they've been in the Super Bowl 3 straight years, the mental toll, the physical toll that takes. And I think that, the Chris Jones of the world are not getting any younger. So I think that Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson are going to run the AFC. The Chiefs will be in the mix quite a bit, but also the guys under them. Oh my God. DeMeco Ryans is sick defensively. I think that that's a team that if CJ Stroud gets with the coordinator that rekindles his strengths, look out for Houston. I love what they're able to do. Nico Collins is somebody that you can trust to make big plays. They just got to get the offense more well-rounded and get the running game back on track. So the AFC is sick all over. Luckily, the Lions only got to beat one AFC squad if they get to the Super Bowl. But my goodness, it's an uphill climb for Patrick Mahomes. But I thought it was weird. It was like all the pundits wanted to talk about like he was retired, like his legacy is ruined and he's nowhere near Tom Brady. I'm like, the man's 29 years old. He's going to put up probably at least 2 more Super Bowls, but maybe in his mid-30s, a couple years to get back on track. But every year you got Patrick Mahomes, I don't think that it's far too premature to, throw stones on his grave. He's legendary, and he's one of those guys that you respect when you watch him. That's the reason why all the non-ball knowers put, the Chiefs giving them the chance to win was one player. That's what I said last week. I said the Eagles are the better team. I mean, clearly, if you watch film, you're like, holy shit. The Eagles' offensive line is stacked. The defensive line is stacked. You got A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. You got the best running back in the game. What are all these people that are seeing the Chiefs seeing? They see one guy, and that's Patrick Mahomes. And that's the respect that the whole NFL world gives to quarterbacks. But in the end, guys, you learned your lesson from hearing me last week. Football is a team game. So while I talk about wanting Jared Goff to be Patrick Mahomes and just elevate everybody no matter what, the Lions are doing the right thing, and they're trying to make it so that it's a team game. And yes, a quarterback can elevate you at the right spot, but that's where Jared Goff needs to kind of step it up, which is his superpower is for the Lions not turning the ball over. Please, Jared, don't go off, and make sure you target the guys that wear your own jersey. If you do that, if good Goff shows up, you have a chance to win a lot of games. But guys, I'm telling you, when the playoffs roll around next year, put some alcohol in a drink and be wary, because if Goff plays bad, and it's there, if he plays bad, that football team will sink faster than the Titanic.
Hey, Doc, I know you do. You're not just a Lions guy. You cover the Tigers at times. People might not really care, but I care. Are the Tigers going to get Bregman? Like, is this thing getting done? I want an update from you, Doc.
Yeah, here's what I look at. I love what the Tigers did last year. I love the fact that they went into the postseason with an $18 million playoff payroll. They're not going to compete to win the World Series. You got the Dodgers that are spending buku bucks. They got 15 Alex Bregmans. It's sick. I think that what happens in Detroit, and I love it. It's fan banter, and it's one of those deals where Bregman is a lot better than a lot of guys you have at third base, but I think that he's playing you. I think it's one of those things that it's kind of easy to read from the outside. He's using the Lions to get more, he's using the Tigers to get more money from the Cubs and Astros. Simple as that. I know that there's a tie to AJ Hinch, and they have the relationship, but I kind of like the model that the Pistons have. Hey, you have Malik Beasley go to the management and say, don't trade me. I want to be here. Bregman kind of feels like, hey, I just want to take the most money. Where can I get the most sunset years for my contract? I'm of the opinion that you don't need them. Continue your evolution, the way in which you've built. I know it expedites and for the Tigers, here's the issue though that they're battling is the perception is that they're cheap. Well, yeah, clearly they have not put forth the investment financially as other teams, but they did now this offseason. I believe they're the highest spending team in the division, and I know the desperation, but it's not Scott Harris's fault that the previous management sucked ass, that Al Avila was supposed to be an international wizard, but couldn't, and lost every trade that he ever made. So one of those things that I would say is that, yes, when the time comes, you need to invest in good young players. But Alex Bregman, I think, would be great at third base. I would not be opposed to the move. But if you're talking 6-7 years, you're talking maybe 3 sunset years where you're giving them elevated dollars for the lack of production. I would be happy at this point in time if they just released it to the beat writers. We announce today that we are paying Javier Baez to hit the road. Hit the road, Jack, and don't come back no more. I would be happy with that. Take the money and just give it to him to go away. To hear that he's going to show up it's like, oh, that's just wrong. But in terms of how the Tigers are building, guys, they're doing it the right way. Scott Harris is negotiating tough. The good thing is, guys, the general managers in town are great. This group of general managers, you can look at and be proud of and go, yeah, they're not desperate. They're not like going to take deals that they don't fit. Yzerman will not give a contract a penny more than he wants to pay. Same with general manager Brad Holmes. The contracts that he gives, people earn. With the Tigers, it's a great run, man. I think that they're going to be there. And a lot of it is in baseball management. You got one of the top 5 managers in all the game. They are, and guys, if I told you from what I hear, because I do cover the Tigers. I have a credential. I go to about 20 games a year, and I'm more on the, texting a lot of people that I know. But when you text the people that will text me back, the analytics department that the Tigers have built over the last 5 seasons, out of this world, sick, advanced. They know what they need to know to get the most out of the players. And I love it because that's where you really start to maximize the dollars you get by getting players that are analytically strong, that can play the game of baseball, be fundamentally sound. And I think the Tigers will have another winning year and probably similar type season in regards to competitiveness, maybe get to the championship round there before the World Series. I don't think that they're a World Series caliber club, but I am not desperate for Alex Bregman. I think he's on the other side of his career. I don't think that, he's great. He'd be a great doubles hitter. His power numbers might not be the same at Comerica. He's an upgrade, but that kind of speaks to your lack of development internally for a third baseman. You just need a body that isn't a stiff. But I'm more curious about how long Torkelson lasts because the Tigers have given him every indication that they hate his guts other than saying goodbye. But he's given it a go. If he can get his bat cooking and be consistent, then he can be, somebody that sticks around. But the Tigers are fun to watch. They're going to be fun to watch this year. I'm in the 86 to 95 win range. They're going to have a good year.
There you go. Appreciate you, Doc, as always. You can check out the Doc on X at Detroit Podcast. Check out Detroit Lions on Sports Illustrated. We'll talk to you next week, Doc.
I appreciate you guys. It's going to be a fun week. Let's go. Even though football's gone, we still roll every week. Podcasts, analysis. Thank you guys for having me. I can't wait. I just can't wait for next Wednesday to talk more football and the Combine in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's coming up quick, man. We appreciate you.
I'll be there, Doc.
There you go. The Doc. The man, the myth, the legend. Joining the show is brought to you guys, as always, BetUS. It's time to get to Around Football, fellas.
Bet responsibly.
Bet responsibly. Around Football, I got something for you. 2 things that are related. I guess same position.
Oh,
the first one, dude. The first one, there's been talks out in Buffalo that James Cook.
I can't wait for this conversation.
Oh,
I can't wait for this conversation.
Cook is asking, reportedly, via his Instagram live, went live on IG, said he wants $15 million per year. That would make him the second highest paid running back in the NFL behind Christian McCaffrey. Cook is eligible for an extension this offseason. Now, your guys' reaction to that, if you're put on your little GM cap, what do you think of paying James Cook 15 M's a year? What do you think about that?
Is this you trying to, real quick, is this you trying to prove your point with Japay and Jameer? Because there are 2 different levels. Go
ahead, say your point.
No,
say your point.
James Cook.
Say your point, Boone. I'll explain mine.
I'm confused now. What's happened here?
Well, you're asking me what I'm trying to say.
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to Jeff.
No, he's accusing me.
I'm accusing Jeff. I'm on the same side as you guys. Yeah. I was like, wait a second. What are you? What are you getting all worked up with me for, Klotz? Hey, watch yourself. Hey, put your floaties on and sit back for a second.
No floaties will be worn in this.
No, I mean, at the end of the day, Jeff, I don't know if you're trying to say that this is like a Jahmyr Gibbs situation. Like, there is different levels. Like, yeah, you might not, like, if I'm the Bills, guess what? I'm not paying James Cook $15 million. That doesn't mean that proves your point of not paying running backs. I just think, like, you look at Saquon's less. Like, all these big names are less than $15 million. James Cook should be the last running back setting the market in the running back world. Well, the last one. The next one that should do it should be Jahmyr Gibbs. And I'm okay doing that because he's on a different level than James Cook. He's on the Christian McCaffrey, the Saquon, the Derrick Henry. He's on that type of level. He's going to make plays like that for you. So, Jeff, don't try this. Don't do all this.
Jeff, let me ask you something. Who do you think was a better player in 2024? James Cook or Tyler Lockett? Just answer. Just a very simple question. James Cook or Tyler Lockett? Just answer the question. That's all I'm asking.
Clearly, James Cook.
All right. James Cook or Dallas Goedert?
I'll get to this after.
And
Yeah,
my
I'm
last point. What was everybody saying was the Bills' fuck up in the AFC Championship, not giving the ball to who? James Cook. When you look at James Cook, he split carries evenly. Not evenly, but he was splitting a backfield for his first 2 years. He came on this year, scored 20 touchdowns, 19 touchdowns, and was by far the Bills' best offensive playmaker. What has Josh Allen never had that he had this year? A run game. Okay, who's behind James Cook? Ray Davis, who I like. Ty Johnson, who I like. They're not RB1s. And then you're going to go, well, draft one. They need defense, and they need wide receivers. I'm not saying 15 mil. If you were to pay James Cook 15 mil, 3 years, $45 million, I do not hate that contract. I don't think he'll get paid $15 million. He'll probably get paid 13 to 14. But honestly, James Cook is a player that is worth $15 million on an NFL roster. Maybe not for 4 to 5 years, but for a 3-year deal, 3 years, $45 million to a running back who can catch the ball, who showed you can put him on his back. When the Bills looked dominant this year, it was when James Cook was going. Their offense identity outside of Josh Allen, who really wasn't doing that much on the ground this year compared to what he used to be, was James Cook. Dalton Kincaid, no show. When you looked at Amari Cooper, you thought he'd be something, no show. Matt Collins and Khalil Shakir were the playmakers outside of James Cook for this offense. And I understand that'll change. But when you look at Buffalo, they have the ability to bring in a James Cook, because I think if you bring in a James Cook, you draft the defense, you draft the wide receiver, you are sitting pretty. I think James Cook is a guy that you can't just go get. You can't go draft a guy to go get you 18, 19 touchdowns year one. You can't. Can't find a guy this offseason that's be able to do what James Cook did for this offense this year, and they didn't use him enough. They need to use him more. Joe Brady's whole thing was he ran the ball with James Cook. That's what made that team so good. And I understand, to Booner's point, James Cook isn't Jahmyr Gibbs. He isn't Saquon Barkley. But I think running backs are going to start getting paid more, especially when they do what James Cook does. And when you look down the line, Jahmyr's going to get paid more than $15 million, wherever he re-signs to. So getting James Cook now.
I'm a little confused by this whole James Cook conversation.
What do you mean confused by what? Like, explain. What do you
like? Klotz, are you saying you would pay him $15 million?
Yeah, I'd pay him $15 million.
All right, Jeff, go ahead. That was all.
I wouldn't like. That's not the number I'm starting at, but I'm not letting James Cook walk. If I'm
again, it's just one of those things where a past argument comes up to where I was told by you that James Cook was not good, and I think maybe a month or two ago you said you would walk away from him.
I never said
and you
James
could
Cook
find
was
someone.
Not good.
And you were all over. Who's the backup that they had? You and Caleb.
Ray Davis.
You guys were like, Ray Davis is taken. You don't re-sign James Cook. Ray Davis is the next guy up
Boone,
there.
obviously,
So that's this is the second time here on the show
Davis,
where counter arguments. It fits your narrative, but you want to make a point. This, that, like. Listen, I'm trying to talk through that. I'm going to let you talk, but I'm still talking. All right, go ahead now, Klotz. Jeez.
How do you respond to that?
Trying to talk over me, and then these people in the chat are like, Booner, let him talk.
No,
I was talking. Let me talk.
Sometimes I wish we could take sarcasm and not use it in different conversations as reality.
You told me James Cook isn't the guy.
Okay, go ahead.
This guy playing the victim.
I'm letting you. You were about to talk again. I'm letting you talk.
Go ahead.
Anyway, my point if I ever said James Cook wasn't good, I've brought up the point that Jahmyr Gibbs is not James Cook. So because me and Jeff went back and forth, I'm not pounding the table to re-sign James Cook to $15 million a year. I'd be pounding the table to re-sign Jahmyr Gibbs for $15 a year, but I don't hate it. I think James Cook is probably a top 6, top 5 running back in the NFL this year. I think you leave guys like that around.
Okay. My big thing is I'm looking at the Bills. Bills are a little they got cap space, not tight. They're pretty tight. They're not completely tight on it. I think they got about $14-15 million. Rasul Douglas, you want to bring him back?
No. Dude, look at what Rasul Douglas won. Isn't their cornerback one or two?
No.
He's dealt with injuries and he's at the older part of his career.
I get it. There's guys that they're going to have to look to bring back. No one really of importance probably besides Rasul Douglas. But my thing with James Cook is I think James Cook is a good running back. Do I think he's worth the second highest paid running back in the league? Like touchdown, he got a ton of touchdowns this year. I think he had, what was it? You said like 18, 19 total?
18, 19. He was second in the league, tied with Derrick Henry.
He was first in rushing at 16. So like, hey, again, great year, but 16th in yards. And maybe it's because they didn't give him the ball enough. All right, that's fair. But my point is clearly 1,000-yard back. It's the touchdowns you're referring to. But do I think he's worth $15 million per year? Personally, I don't. I'd rather there's probably better positions you want to invest in if I'm the Bills moving forward, because it's not just 15 next year. It's the next year. It's the next year. And that's where I'm at with it. I don't want to sit here and act like James Cook isn't a good player. I just don't think if I'm the Bills and he's like, well, I want to be the second highest paid running back, it's like, great. Like someone else can pay you that then, probably not us. Now that's fine. I get where you're coming from with it. And yes, he had 300 yards receiving this year. So he was a little weapon in the passing game too, a couple hundred yards. Like I get it, but it's not one of those running backs like Saquon, Christian McCaffrey. Like I look at those guys as like the premier backs. I don't know if I'd give him that much money. $15 million. That's a little high for me. But
a little rich.
I want to, and that's fine. We can agree to disagree there. I see this. Tyler says he's young. He's got good yards per carry numbers. He has 2,000-yard seasons in a row. James Cook is a really good starter, and to me, he's a plus starter at skill position. Should be played. $15 million. All right, there you go. Weezy says James Cook not better than Monty. Silence says, how about total yards? I did read those off, so appreciate you for telling me that. Malik says not paying your good productive running backs is how your run game ends up like the Raiders or the Cowboys.
Tough. Yeah, that is.
Or run them into the ground.
Tough.
I mean, they paid Zeke, but they ran that man into the ground.
Shift God said, fuck it, draft Scatabo.
Still can get him.
Yeah.
Still can get him.
Yeah. He'll be a pretty good player. I did see also around sports. This is on this specifics. Yeah, shout out to Easy. Yeah, by the way, Easy, used all my bonus bets. It's over. Shout out to Caleb. Love him though. One last thing I want to bring up before we have 5 minutes left, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on it. Speaking of running backs, James Cook we talked about, Jahmyr Gibbs, second in the NFL on most sports books. I don't know if this is but the example ML Football used. I don't really care about this sports book, but you get the point. He's one of the favorites to go out and win Offensive Player of the Year. I'll ask the same question I asked the doc. Do you believe Jahmyr Gibbs will have that impact to like a Saquon Barkley, where he can help you? Obviously, with a good defense, get you to a Super Bowl. Have that type of impact. Doesn't have to be 2,000 necessarily, but Offensive Player of the Year numbers.
Klotz, floor is yours.
I think he already does. Like, I think Saquon just had his career best year, but you look at what Saquon did in New York, that's what he's doing right now. I think if you give Jahmyr Gibbs a lone backfield, he's going to do what Saquon did this year. But now maybe the reverse hurdle, I don't know about all that. But you talk about production, Jahmyr Gibbs is definitely a running back that can give you 2,000 yards. Now here's the David Montgomery impact. Saquon Barkley has Kenneth Gainwell. He's got Will Shipley. He doesn't have David Montgomery. And I think that we've talked about it. Like Jahmyr, most likely I would be shocked if he did not get a larger load of the backfield than he did this year. Doesn't have to be dramatically, but I do think that he showed last year that he is clearly the best offensive player, and that's not like any disrespect to Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, Penei Sewell, any of those guys. It goes to respect how good Jahmyr Gibbs is, how special Jahmyr Gibbs is. This is without a doubt a top 5 offensive player in the NFL. There's things that he can do that no one in the NFL can. And I think that is in that Saquon Barkley tier. Saquon just came off 2,000 yards. He's going to be really good next year, but I think Jahmyr Gibbs will be right on his heel. He's going to be behind a really good offensive line, a really good football team, going to get more of a workload. So absolutely. I said last year, didn't pan out, but I said that Jahmyr Gibbs easily offensive player of the year candidate. I think next year it's a lock.
Boone, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna be a finalist for it for sure. It just depends on how they use him. Like if you see how they used him at the end of the season last year, then he should, and they should use him that way. Like I think Demont's gonna still get the carries and he's still gonna have the opportunities. But you got to see kind of the last 3 games of the season when Demont's out, what Jahmyr Gibbs was all about. And it's hard if you have a player like that just sitting in your backfield, and like it's hard not to use him, and you have to. And I don't think there's like you're not going to run him into the ground because you do have Demont, so you're able to alleviate a lot of that. He should be an offensive player of the year candidate next year, like a finalist minimum. It's just on this offense with all the weapons they have. It's like, I mean, Saquon did it with the weapon. They have AJ Brown. They didn't have a second running back, but they still had a lot of different weapons there. And Jalen Hurts kind of stealing all those touchdowns, and Saquon still did it. I'm not saying he's going to have the year Saquon did, but the potential's there. Like that ceiling, like I could see him going off and having a massive year next year.
Yeah, I think this year, what did he have? He had like 1,400, 1,500 rushing yards, almost 1,800 all-purpose, whatever. Did he have He didn't have 2,000 all-purpose, did he? I think he had.
No, I don't believe
1,800 maybe, which is like it's still a massive year. And the touchdowns, 20. I mean, broke the franchise record for total touchdowns. Yeah, absolutely should be an offensive player of the year. I mean, he's going to get more touches, in my opinion. I think it's still going to be like a 60-40, but I can see it being a little leaning more towards Gibbs. I think it's proven. Like they knew he was special, but I think in year 3 now, it's like, all right, let's let this guy cook a little bit here. They're running the offense with this guy. He's just special, especially the total touches, not just the carries. More catches, more touches in total. Like that's why you drafted him high, man. Let him eat a little bit. But still keep Monty involved. Keep him fresh, but you can put more. I think you can put more of a workload on him. I think he'd probably agree with that. Let him cook a little bit. So that's where I'm at with it. ETN says Jeremiah Smith, Offensive Player of the Year.
Matt Patricia's not winning Coordinator of the Year, but Jeremiah Smith will be the Biletnikoff Award winner for the rest of the time that he's in college football. Not this year, but he had an argument this year, honestly. Got T-Mac, but it was a dog.
T-Mac. I mean, we'll see. Maybe if Amon-Ra gets Hines Ward,
I would love that.
He'll win Offensive Player of the Year. We'll see. I actually love that. I still can't get over that. It's a great one. Silence says, need Kyron Williams to get some love for Offensive Player of the Year.
No, and me and ETN have discussed this just through text message. We text sometimes off the show. He conceded. Kyron, he didn't say Kyron's cooked, but he said there's a level between Jahmyr and Kyron. There's a clear level.
Shift God says, what is a path to a Hutch Defensive Player of the Year campaign if he's healthy?
Boone, you were preaching it.
Get sacks. Yeah, Boone.
23 sacks. Book it.
Breaking the okay. 40 sacks, 30 sacks, 40 sacks. All right, we'll get out of here. Appreciate you all. Appreciate the doc. Did a great job today, as always. We'll be back tomorrow. Next week, locking in a draft guest to help us break down more of the prospects in this draft. So we got draft content coming up. Get your merchandise, officialctsports.com. Drop a like on the stream as well. Helps out the boys. Pushes it into the algorithm a little bit. But until tomorrow, appreciate you all. We will catch you.
Peace.